Okay, good morning, everybody. This is our November membership meeting, and as usual, I have a couple of housekeeping chores I need to do before we can get started. Just to remind you that your mics have been automatically muted to reduce background noise and also save on bandwidth. We look forward to you asking questions. If you're watching in Zoom, enter your questions in the chat area. If you're watching our YouTube live stream, please also add your questions to the chat area in YouTube, and I'll be sure to monitor it and make sure your questions get asked. Video recordings on Facebook and YouTube will be posted at the latest tomorrow. And remember, if you don't have a YouTube account, you don't need one. All you need to do is find our button in the upper right corner of any of our web pages and tap it to open our YouTube channel. Facebook, you definitely need your own account to be able to watch there. Everybody should have signed the civil discourse disclaimer before they were able to register, but just to remind you that we want to be good league members. Remember that we're nonpartisan and we're never rude to each other, and certainly not our guests. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen and turn the meeting over to Kaeli Richardson.
All right. Good morning, everybody. So as you can see, our fearless leader, our president, James Spiro, was not able to be with us this morning. So she asked me to fill in. So I serve on the board as the first vice president and work on kind of the program related items. And so we're excited today to have J.U.S.T Pensacola here with us as one of our community partners, as well as Tori Woods will be joining us shortly. Representing the Escambia Children's Trust organization. And so we're going to get an update from what they have been working on since their creation. And that is part of our local league program for this year. So if you're not familiar kind of with that term in the league, it means something very specific. So our members in preparation for our annual business meeting look at local kind of governmental issues, and they put forth ideas, and we just it's one of those things that our members were interested in, and so we've had a few of our members go and observe some of their meetings and kind of keep tabs on what's happening, and we're going to be reporting that back out to our members as well. And so that's kind of how we chose them to be this month's speaker, because it's part of our local program work for this year, as well as all the other numerous, issues that we've been involved in for several years. Things like voter service, of course, gun safety, natural resources, women's issues, a whole plethora of advocacy issues. So that kind of brings me to like the two-pronged work of the league. Obviously, we're founded to educate and inform voters so that they know how to participate in our democracy, as well as then also advocate on specific public policy issues that the league has studied and taken positions on. So kind of keep that in mind. So we're designed to be nonpartisan, which means we don't support political parties, candidates, that kind of thing. So keep that in mind. But we are here to help inform the public on how to better participate in our democracy locally at the state level, and of course nationally as well. And so we're excited to do that. So welcome to our members. Welcome to any guests we have with us. If you're a fairly new member to the league, we look forward to getting to know you. And hopefully you found a committee or kind of all other committees that we have that are kind of more, I would say, the behind the scenes work, right? Like communications and membership and some other things that we have as part of our work as well to make it successful. So we are going to first start with Jo Matthews. So she's our treasurer, and she's going to introduce our community partner this morning. And then keep in mind during her presentation, just if you have any questions, just put them in the chat, and we'll get to those once she's finished. So Jo, I'll turn it over to you to introduce our community partner.
Thank you, Haley. Just a quick reminder of what our partnership program is all about. This started last year because we were all sequestered in our area of Zoom, but it is to reach out to other nonprofit organizations in Pensacola to learn more about them. Mary Louise puts on our website all of our partners' information, the logo, the link to their webpage. And the idea here is if our partners need some assistance, another pair of hands, some donations, whatever their need may be, that they have a partner that they can reach out to. And likewise for the league, when it comes to voter registration, when it comes to getting the word out about amendments, that we have partners that can help us do that. And so far, it's been very successful. I think we have exchanged some volunteer opportunities between ourselves and our partners, and that has worked out very well. So having said that, Kaeli, if I can turn this over to you to introduce yourself and your background and tell us about J.U.S.T Pensacola.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Good morning, everybody. I am the lead organizer for J.U.S.T Pensacola. I've been here for about 4 months, but this is not my first time doing justice ministry organizing. I was in Palm Beach County before here doing a similar position, but decided to move back to Pensacola because this is where my family is from and where I consider home. So it's great to be back. It's great to be back. So this morning, I prepared a quick presentation, and I have my email at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me. I'm happy, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, so let me share my screen. Can everybody see that? Perfect.
Yes. Yes.
So, J.U.S.T Pensacola is a powerful justice ministry organization in Escambia County. We are currently made up of 16 congregations, but we're growing very quickly, and we have all kinds of congregations that are involved, from Baptist congregations to synagogues. We have our UU congregation. I see Paula Montgomery on here this morning. And we have Catholic congregations. So we are truly an interfaith organization. We were founded in 2019, and our goal is to use the power of large numbers of organized people to solve critical community problems. We are not a direct service provider, but instead we're a grassroots, direct action, multi-issue organization. And we're also bipartisan, which I didn't put up there, but is important. So we use all kinds of scripture and words of faith to describe the work that we do, but something we lean on a lot is our vision for justice ministry from Micah 6:8. And we do this because it says that in order, Micah provides a clear list of requirements, and it says to do justice, love, mercy, and to walk humbly with God. So we believe that doing justice is a core part of our faith traditions, and yet it's one that's often overlooked. So our vision is to build upon the justice ministry within each of our congregations such that justice is an integral part of the culture as faithfulness and mercy is. And we believe that we can build power of J.U.S.T Pensacola such that we will turn out thousands of people for our Nehemiah action in the years to come. This in turn will bring out incredible strides towards justice in the neighborhoods and communities of Pensacola that we live in. So the way we do this is there's a yearly process where we focus on strengthening the justice ministry teams in each congregation and build power. So before each meeting goes on, we meet as a small group and we ask, how is this congregation building power? So we have house meetings in the fall. That season just ended. This year we had 60 house meetings throughout Escambia County where we listened to stories. Over 300 people shared their stories about what's going on in Pensacola. And we also just had our community problems assembly where we affirmed that we're going to be working on 2 issues this year: affordable housing and adult civil citations. And from now until March, we're going to be doing research and coming up with the best solutions and meeting with nonprofits, local city officials, and business leaders to really hone in on what exact solution we want to work on. And then in May, actually May 2nd this year, we're going to bring, our goal is 1,200 people and our city officials to that meeting and ask them to implement the solutions that we have spent all year researching. So this year, as I mentioned, we're doing affordable housing and civil citations. Last year, J.U.S.T Pensacola was part of getting the juvenile civil citation passed by the sheriff and by our state attorney. And they wrote a memorandum, and we are now currently still watching the numbers to try to get civil citation usage up to 80%. And that's our goal. And we're going to try to do the same thing with adults. We're not going to try. We are going to do the same thing with adults this year. So here's just a quick, the dates. The Community Problem Assembly just passed, but if you are interested in coming to any of our bigger events, these are going to be, all the information is going to be on our website, which will be improved and running by January, but also on our Facebook, we have all this information. And if you belong to a congregation that you think should be involved, please reach out to me. We're always looking to bring on new churches or mosques or synagogues or any of the above. So don't hesitate to reach out, connect me with your pastor or reverend or rabbi, and I'd be happy to talk to them. So that is pretty much, that's all I have today, short and sweet. I know I went pretty fast. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them either now or after.
Kaeli, I have a question, and
Oh, yeah, sure.
I'm not using chat. But,
oh, that's okay. That's okay. Go ahead.
So the members of J.U.S.T are various organizations within Pensacola. Do you have a J.U.S.T Pensacola office of core volunteers that are working to coordinate all of these people?
So right now, we have our volunteers that are basically, we call them team members, and they are part of the larger, so each, for example, Paula Montgomery goes to the UU church, and she is a team leader at her church, and she shepherds the folks at UU. But if people who are not involved in a congregation want to get involved in J.U.S.T Pensacola, they just need to let me know, and I'll connect them with a volunteer who will kind of be their guide, and they'll get all their information from that person.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is there any other questions right now? And if one comes to you a little bit later, you can still put that in the chat later if anyone else has one. And I know at the moment we're waiting for our other speaker to join us. She was a little bit double booked with oh, I see she's on. She made it. Yay. So I see Tori has joined us. And I believe Mary Louise, she sent us her slides ahead of time. So if you want to kind of cue those up for her.
Yes. Whenever she's ready for me to put them up there, I will.
All right.
Or you have to let me know when to advance the slides, and I'd be glad to.
Yeah. All right. So I just want to again welcome Tori Woods with us. She is here representing the Escambia Children's Trust, and she serves as their vice chair for the board. So we're going to turn our meeting over to her so that she can share with us what has been happening with the trust since they have been formed and in the process of getting themselves organized and off the ground. So Tori?
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Fine. We're fine. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I sent the PowerPoint. Did you have the PowerPoint?
I do. Are you ready for me to put that up?
I am. Yes, ma'am.
And you just tell me when to advance the slides, and I'd be glad to.
All right. Thank you. So my name is Tori Woods. Like you said, I am the vice chair of the trust. We are excited to be here to speak to you guys. I apologize if you hear a lot of noise. I'm going to my car. We're at the championship games for football. So I'm a little multitasking right now. Okay. So I am ready. So if you want to go to the next slide, please.
Okay. So the PowerPoint is up, Tori.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, do you mind advancing to the next slide, please?
Oh, sorry.
Yes,
Sorry,
ma'am.
gladly. There it is.
So this is what the trust is. It is, there are 9 trusts across the state. The purpose is to invest in children. We want to try to close gaps across different areas. We do not deliver services, so we are a funder of services. So organizations will come to us. There'll be a certain guideline they'll have to follow, and we will help support those services. And we are an independent special taxing district, so that's why we had to vote on this last November. And there are different gaps. We are still trying to finalize exactly what we want to fund, but we have been looking at other trusts, and we plan on, after we hire the executive director, to reach out to the community to see what services or what areas that they think that the trust should focus on. So the next slide, please.
Sure.
So this is how the trust is funded. Our county had to vote for it. It's funded by the additional half meal tax, which will probably equate to between $7 to $9 million a year. The average cost per homeowner is about $40 a year. The average cost for owner of any other type of property is about $67 per year. So the next slide, please. And we did a whole bunch of research and looked at other organizations. My unique, I guess, skill set for the trust is I was part of trying to get the trust passed. So like I was, invested in like the research that helped us decide whether we should try to put the trust on the ballot. We are 4th in the state of Florida as far as child abuse. Arrest for Black males, we are 4th in the state. Wellness rankings, as you can see, we're 47 out of 67. And we're right next to a county that is 8th. So that's a huge difference in, the quality of life for our children. And overall, Florida's preterm birth rate is 10.6 and we're at 14.6. Kindergarten readiness, as you can see, 66% of our kids were ready in 14, and in 19, only 48% were ready. Overall, Florida is at 57% in 19. So we are, still behind the mark as far as the average for the state of Florida. Next slide, whenever you can. How does it work? So we will hire trained staff to help coach existing service providers. We actually are in the process of trying to find our executive director. So if you've been watching anything on the trust or going to the website, we have been narrowing down, our top candidates for our executive director. System and process, so measuring metrics, tracking data, report. I think the advantage of our trust is we have 9 other trusts to look at and to, use their best practices. So even though the trust is brand new for us, for Escambia County, we have a long history of other trusts that have done this and have been successful. So we have a lot of examples to look at to really help mold our trust to be successful. So also there's a 10-year life. So when we voted on it, it would be a tax for 10 years. So we'll have 10 years before we have to vote on it again. So what effects of children not receiving quality early education? So some effects of if we didn't have this trust and didn't help fund these programs, 93% are more likely to end the child welfare system by 9, 25% more likely to drop out of school, 40% more likely to become a teen parent, 30% more likely to be arrested for a violent crime. So it costs us about $33,000 a year to keep a person in the Escambia County Jail. So if we invest those funds into helping, save children, we would recoup way more money on the back end if we can help these children stay out of the criminal justice system. Next slide. Thank you. So specific improvement examples that we have looked at for the trust with, that other counties are using. So they have increased reading proficiency for third graders in Martin, Broward, and Miami-Dade. St. Lucie has shown a 63% reduction in youth alcohol abuse between 2000 and 2016. And Martin County is now ranked #1 in Florida for infant breastfeeding due to nurse home visit incentives through their different trusts across the state. So what are other children's trusts have invested in? So mentorship and employment services, high quality early child care, incentive family strengthening programs, expansion of mental health services, improved access to oral health, vision services, breastfeeding support, and nutrition education. And these are the other non-trusts that we mentioned that have already been in the making before our trust was. So these are just examples of what they've done in the past. So initially the board kind of got together and we've had different sessions to kind of talk about what we vision the trust to look like. And some of our goals are reducing juvenile crime and violence, increased kindergarten readiness, increased third grade reading proficiency, reduce rates for teen pregnancy, child abuse and neglect, and increase child wellness rankings. So this is the end of the presentation. Did anyone have any questions for me about what we spoke about, or questions that I did not answer in the presentation?
I have one question, Tori. This is Mary Louise.
Yes,
Would it be okay if we put your website, your a PowerPoint up on our website to share with people who want
yes,
to
ma'am.
do it again, and then they would have all your contact information as well?
Yes, ma'am. Of course.
Oh, thanks so much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anyone else who might have had a question, or if you'd had a chance to put it in the chat? Or Mary Louise, did we have any other questions that came through, since it's kind of streaming across other platforms?
No, we haven't.
Haley, this is
Shirley. Yeah, go ahead, Shirley.
Type my question in. And I wanted to ask, you had some things that you wanted to increase. Have you put any kind of percentages or milestones when you know that you've reached your goals or progress toward your goals?
We have not addressed the specifics. We have an idea of what we want to do, but until we get an executive director, we won't finalize all of that, because the trust is a board of 10 and all of us are volunteers. And so we are really want to hire that executive director that has that experience, because all of us have something unique we bring to the trust, but we really want somebody that has that experience, that has the background to make sure that we are not over projecting what we can do in a time frame. So we haven't, that's the goal after the executive director is hired, is to really finalize what we want to do and put those specific goals in place. So we would love community input, and we plan on having community roundtables across the county to get input from our community as well.
All right, perfect. So we've had a few other questions come in the chat. So the first one says, if you don't use all the money, will it roll over to the next year?
I believe the answer to that is yes.
Yes. Okay. And then the next one is also kind of like a budget money question. So it says, how did you determine what factors, I guess, would determine the new budget? So is priority areas going to change year to year, and that might be something kind of down the road with the hiring an executive director. But sort of criteria that has been discussed that would determine, a new budget year to year is the question.
We are looking at like a needs assessment, different needs assessment, and we are also deciding if we need to do an additional needs assessment, but that will probably finalize more once we have an executive director, because a lot of that side of it, right now we're using an interim executive director. So when we have, our goal is to hire somebody that has a lot of experience in that field so they can help guide us in the right direction as far as what we decide and how we finalize what we're doing. We have looked at other trusts across the state and kind of see where they are now and how they started. A lot of them have been around for a long, long time. So we are literally having to build everything from scratch. So from the bylaws to the standing rules. So that's kind of where we are, is trying to get those things in place and then get that executive director in to really help us mold what we want the trust. And when I say we, I mean Escambia County, what we want the trust to look like to help our children.
Yeah. All right. And then the last question that's come in is, what is your time frame for hiring the executive director?
So we put out the applications. The applications have closed. We have narrowed them down. We interviewed some candidates last week, and the goal is to have our finalists narrowed down by January, and to do some type of community meeting sometime in January. And depending on the person that we pick and where they're from and how fast they can leave their current job, will determine the time frame that they can move here. But we are looking to finalize at least our finalists by January.
All right. And then the next question that's come in.
And I will tell you.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
One thing, because we have to do everything by the Sunshine Law. That's kind of another reason it's dragged out. So we have to post when we want to do certain things. So, in other realms of business, you can kind of interview and move a lot faster with hiring someone, because we fall under the Sunshine Law. That kind of makes it a little difficult to kind of squeeze in interviews and get the board together, because we have judges, we have county council, and we have school board members. So to kind of work our schedules around and be able to post it, the Sunshine Law is great. It just makes the process a little bit longer.
Oh yeah, that's great. Thank you for clarifying that for some of us that might not have remembered that applies to you guys. All right, and then our next question says, with the current budget that you have now, to kind of explain the process with coming up with the numbers that are in it currently.
Could you? I don't think.
Yeah. So the question says, I think you have a budget now. So how did you come up with the numbers that you approved, like the current year's budget?
So the current year's budget, we looked at other counties. I believe maybe St. Lucie, maybe a county that's similar to our size and our budget. And we looked at their budget and their needs, because they have been a trust before, and tried to budget similar to those needs. So like what, we looked at other trusts and what an executive director makes, and how many staff we may want to start off with, because we had to have something. If we didn't have a budget, we couldn't get the money in next year. So we looked at that budget, and of course the budget we can vote to change things, but we tried to look at county similar and make our budget close to what their budget and needs are, because they mimic our county in size and in need.
All right. Well, thank you.
And then we did have meetings. We did also have open meetings for the community, for community input, if there was something that they thought they may think is different. So we did have different, I think 2 or 3 meetings, public meetings for input if someone had a question, or I thought, maybe we should move some money here. So we did also ask for input on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the next question that's come in says, will the board consider having a community advisory council?
That is very interesting, because we have talked about that. We have not made a final decision, but other counties do have a community advisory council. That's something that we want to sit down with the executive director and figure out, but we have spoke about it, and other trusts do have that. So I think it was a great idea. I get one vote, but we aren't the all tell for the whole county. So I'm hoping that we will pick one. If I got the vote, it would be yes on that, but we haven't made those decisions because we need. So with the sunshine law, well, if we speak, if any of the board speaks, we have to, it's public record, we have to say it. So, in public, and we have to make a meeting. So having that executive director would be able to help us make those meetings and put a board together. Right now, that's like really hard with us because of the sunshine law.
All right, and then the last question that's come in says, when can we expect a community meeting? It sounded like it was probably going to be January timeframe, hopefully. I don't know.
Yes, ma'am. January is when we expect to have the meeting with the finalists for the executive director position. We haven't finalized that date because we have to meet with the entire board, and I believe we're meeting on the Monday after Thanksgiving to finalize a date to bring in the finalists for the executive director position.
All right, yeah, and then the next question that's come in says, where online can the public view the recordings of your meetings?
On our website, there is a link, and I believe they post them on our Facebook page as well.
Okay, yeah, so Facebook page, on the Escambia Children's Trust website is where you can find recordings. And I do know also that we have a few league members who've committed to joining and going to the meetings as well. So they are kind of observing what's happening and kind of report back. And then that's part of our local program activities as well. So you might see them in the future with our fun like league buttons on. So that's one way that you can get involved in league work if you're interested in observing particular meetings like the Escambia Children's Trust, especially when we have a strong interest from members. All right. Any other questions, Mary Louise, that have come in from anywhere else?
And we would love to have y'all at meeting. We do have open forum where you can ask questions and speak. So yes, we definitely would love any input at any of our meetings.
Yeah, well, great. Well, yeah, I know we've had a couple people that have gone the last couple months. So I think they've reported back to our local board. And so, yeah, so definitely this is of interest, like I said, to our members. And so we'll continue following the progress. Was there any other questions that might have come in for Kaeli with Just Pensacola? So you can still ask your questions now too.
Okay, here's a question though for Tori.
Oh, yeah.
What can we do to help?
I believe getting more people involved, more people coming to our meetings, and just spreading the word about what the trust does, because we did win the vote by 60-40, but there are a lot of people in our community that don't really understand what the trust is. And I think that's important because in 10 years, we do have to vote on it. And a lot of times our county people have the perception that we don't do things right. And so I just think the more education about how the trust can help and really getting people involved and interested, I think is our biggest obstacle right now.
Okay. And one more question, Tori. We understand that there are existing community agencies that you would choose to help implement the trust, but can agencies apply to you for a grant or apply to you for a kind of partnership to work with you in your endeavors?
Yes, ma'am. So that's what we will be funding. And we're hoping to have that funding go out sometime in the summer or by August. We haven't finalized what the application or process will look like. So hopefully as soon as we get that executive director in place, but we do have, like I said, other like trusts that have an application and the process has been successful. So as soon as we narrow down what our focus will be and get that application like finalized with the process, then they'll be able to apply. I think that's like our biggest thing right now is finalizing all of that, because when you vote to have it approved, like you don't have anything. So we are literally like having to create all the documents and the information to, measure metrics and measure what they'll, have to do to decide if the grant is successful or not. So as soon as we get that executive directive, we'll probably be able to, because they'll be able to work on that full time, reach out to the other trusts and really help us develop an application process that's fair and inclusive to all programs. Because for me, I know there are a lot of grassroots organizations that have our target population of kids and families. And so to make sure that everybody has a fair chance to apply and get the funding to help children.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And I don't see any more questions either in YouTube or in our Zoom chat, Haley.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, again, thank you so much to our two speakers this morning. I think we learned a lot about some of the grassroots work, if I could talk, after a long work week. Many of the grassroots organizations, just like the league, working, the mission to better, not just our community, but like, our state and all of that. So just a last couple reminders in terms of for next month for the league, because it is December. So we will not have a formal meeting like this, but we are planning to have our holiday social get together on December the 5th, which is going to be hosted by our president, Jane Spurl, at her home, which will be at 2:00. So be looking for details coming out in the next week or so to make sure you RSVP, and we would love to see you there. And then, of course, we're gearing up for the legislative session to start in January. So our next formal league meeting will be in January. So we'll be sending out details about that once we have everything finalized, and then be looking once the session starts, as we who've been in the league for a long time knows that we'll be looking for our calls to action, who to contact, following our legislative priorities, and then the weekly capital report communications will be coming out. So just be on the lookout for those, and then respond to calls to action at the state level once the session gets going for this year. And I think that's all of the announcements. Any other board members, committee chairs have anything else you want to mention? Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you at the holiday party in December, and I wish everyone and their family a very happy, safe Thanksgiving next week. So, oh yeah, go ahead.
This is Shirley.
Yeah, go ahead,
We're
Shirley.
planning in January to have a how to write a letter to the editor workshop. So we want that word to get out so that we can have maximum participation and people who can speak for their issues to the public. And that's scheduled for January 22nd.
Okay, perfect. Yes, January 22nd. Yeah, so that'll be our main, I think, meeting for January. So that'll be very exciting. And thank you, Shirley, for working diligently on getting our speaker and confirming details and everything. All right. Anything else? So just be watching the league website. It's lwvpba.org for any other events, committee meetings, those kind of things. But right now they're still in the Zoom format, but hopefully in the future we will get back to in-person meetings as well. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next month at the holiday social. So we'll see you later. Bye.
Thank you, Tori and Kaeli.